Hello and welcome to another live with Mark and Suze from World Multisport. Welcome to those that are watching live at the moment and to those that are going to watch it later on our YouTube and Facebook platforms. Tonight we're talking about how to be a long-term triathlete, and today is also the Olympic triathlon. This morning, New Zealand time, was the men's Olympic triathlon where the Kiwis actually got a medal.
They did. Bronze medal.
They did very well.
Yeah, so were you cheering for New Zealand, Matt?
Well, there were no Aussies up there, so yes, I was cheering for the New Zealand guy, Hayden Wild. He had a fantastic race, and Christian Blumenfeld from Norway was the winner with Alex Yee from Great Britain second. So it was cool.
So a good race overall?
It was a good race overall. Women's race tomorrow.
Okay, exciting.
Anyway, on to what we're going to talk about tonight, which is how to be a long-term triathlete. So how to, I guess, really this is all about achieving your potential as an athlete, because to develop your potential or to reach your potential as an athlete, you need to train consistently, not over weeks and months, but over years.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that people do to achieve that? You know, how do you become a long-term triathlete and reach your potential? Because I think personally there's nothing worse than you can go better, but you haven't been able to do the work for one reason or another. And it might not be a lack of desire or a lack of talent. It's just haven't worked out what the strategies are to get that consistency in. So that's our goal tonight.
Yeah, I'll have a go.
I was talking about, sorry.
And I think we all know people as well that you know in your everyday life that are like that have managed to keep consistent training over the years and are going very well and never seem to be unfit.
Yeah. You know, you always wonder, how do they do it? What is it? And it's not necessarily they're any more talented. Probably the talent is in their ability to train consistently.
Yeah, I think they just love it.
And you talk to any athlete that has, regularly achieves their potential, and they might not necessarily be at the front of the field, but they're always achieving their best, to any athlete or any coach. And the one word that comes through is consistency. It's just being consistent over that long period of time. And it doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s or 50s, you can actually still get better.
So you've come up with 10 strategies or tips today for how to be a long-term triathlete?
Yes, I have. So the first one is you need to be realistic with your training capacity. And what that means is it's all very well and good to say, oh, look, I could probably train 10 hours a week. But realistically, your training age, which is, how much experience you have in the sport, how long you've been competing for, your circumstances in life, you might have a very demanding job and a lot of family commitments. 10 hours a week might be too much. So the first thing is you need to be realistic with how much training you think you can perform consistently each week.
Fair enough.
Because there's no point doing, say, 10 hours one week and then 5 hours the next 3 weeks. Maybe you're better off doing 7 or 8 hours consistently. So be realistic with how much training you think you can do and how much training your body can actually absorb. So the stress plus rest equals growth is the first one.
Yeah, and you don't want to be doing too much training that it's so hard on your other aspects of your life that you just get burnt out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that's probably, I think, the number one reason why those that do achieve their potential and, are consistent is because they're realistic with how much training they can do on a consistent basis. Okay, the second one that follows on from there is develop a routine that is sustainable and repeatable. Because motivation, those people that do achieve their potential and that, go well and train consistently, they're not hugely motivated. They don't wake up and bounce out of bed every morning and go, yay, I can't wait to train. But they have a sustainable routine. So I guess that is important to work out, okay, well, what's a routine that I can sustain over a long period of time, whether it's, maybe getting good sleep and having things organized at home and work and that type of stuff. So the routine is certainly very important. The third one is, and this is where I think some people can go wrong, is take regular breaks. At least, every year you want to be taking a good 2-3 weeks off, and then maybe a couple of mini breaks every year. So
I think they worried too much about losing fitness by having a break And I've been there before. When I was regularly training, I was taking sort of regular 2-week breaks after every.
Yep.
And you certainly did feel when you came back that you had lost some fitness, but it's actually important to detrain a little bit and then retrain. And now I've been in a situation where I've lost a lot of fitness. It gives you perspective about that. A 2-week break is really nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah, that's right. And the more you train, the more experience that you have in the sport, and the more consistent you have, and the more years you have training, when you take a break, the fitness comes back at a much quicker rate as well.
Yeah, and it gives you a chance to even get even higher than you were.
Yeah, and you can't train all the time. You actually do need to detrain. You do need to give your body physically and mentally a rest, as much from the routine, but also just the endurance training. So it is really important to take regular breaks, and the length of the break is different for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, training, only having a few days off training is really nothing, especially if there's been something in your life, like an operation, that means that you can't train
What are you saying?
for a few days. I was just trying to put a barb into the video that only you would notice.
Well, if those are watching for the first time, I had an operation last week on my knee last Thursday. It's actually feeling really, really good. The swelling is gone. My range of movement is there. I had all last week off. I didn't train, and I thought today maybe I could hop on the wind trainer, but someone said that I didn't.
Thursday. Today's Monday.
Anyway,
what's the next one?
The next one is, so this is a really important one, is in any year, you might choose 1 or 2 races that are your A races, the ones you want to perform really well at. You might say do 6 or 8 races a year, but 1 or 2 of them are the ones you want to really perform at. And so in those ones, I like to use the term going to the well. So you'll go really deep. You'll go as hard as you can. Some people call it the hurt locker, and it takes a lot of mental and emotional energy to go that deep, where you're prepared to really put yourself through a lot of discomfort. And in my experience, as an athlete, as a coach, you don't want to do that more than 1 to 2 times a year, because it does takes, especially if you're doing long course racing, it takes a lot out of you physically, but also it takes a lot out of you mentally when you're putting yourself through a certain level of discomfort. So, yeah.
Well, it's sort of similar to our training philosophies, that there should be a small amount of sessions that are hard, and then the rest are easy. So it's the same with any kind of racing. You need a small amount that requires that mental energy to go as far as you can, and then the rest are essentially training races, is how we often look at it.
Yeah. So there's always, if you're going to go deep and go to the well in every race, you're probably going to have a short-term lifespan as a triathlete. We can only go to that level maybe once or twice a year. And even your professional athletes will always target, whether it's like they had the Olympic Games today, professional athletes will go hard in every race they do, but for things like Olympic Games and World Championships, they'll probably go over and above, and they'll prepare themselves mentally for that. But it does take a bit out of you. The next one is number 5, is competing over a variety of distances and events. Now, I've seen this a lot in the long course sphere, where you have athletes only race half Ironmans and Ironmans, and they don't get any excitement or desire or satisfaction from, say, doing a sprint triathlon or a half marathon run or a mountain bike race or something. And so to keep yourself fresh and keep things enjoyable, choose all different events and races to compete in, not just your long course. And
it goes back to your last point, where if you're going deep into the well, which you do have to do for any long course race, no matter how hard you're going, you're not going to be able to keep doing those and backing up.
No. Long course events especially, I mean, they're fantastic, they're emotional, and there's, big excitement and lots of, there's a great atmosphere around those races, and everyone's high on life, but they take a lot out of you. So I think it's important just to mix up your distances and your events. Okay, the 6th one is to become part of a club or a squad and get some coaching. Having some training partners, friends, a group to train with makes things so much easier compared to as if you're doing it all on your own. And certainly if you join a club or a squad, you'll probably get access to some coaching as well. And, there's the advice from coaching, there's the advice from training partners, but also the support, the friendship, and the accountability to help you through the times where maybe you're not that motivated.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one. I think if you've got the training partners, it becomes more of a social thing and something you do for enjoyment outside of the training. So makes a big difference.
Yeah, and at the moment, certainly, in the Southern Hemisphere here in New Zealand, it's winter, it's a bit cold, and I know people in our squad here in New Plymouth are certainly leaning on each other for that support, because they know if they go for, say, a long run on a Sunday, there'll be others there, or go for a ride on the weekend, or even during the week, they'll be able to meet up with friends, and whereas if they're on their own, it might not be as easy.
It's one of the girls said on the weekend at our run, it just makes it that much easier to go out and do the session, and so much more enjoyable to go have people to meet and do your run with, rather than just going out on your own.
So if you're not in a club or a squad, highly recommend getting involved with one. And, they have all different types of clubs, squads in triathlon, running, cycling. It's probably a key way where you'll get that longevity and, and become a long-term athlete. The next one is also really, really important, as they all are, these points, but ensure most of your training is at an aerobic intensity. So we've often talked about polarized training, where most of your training, so about 70 to 80% of your total training volume, should be at an easy conversational pace. If you're doing a lot of your training where it's high intensity intervals and it's hard, again, mentally it drains you, but physically it stresses your body a lot more than easy aerobic training. So that's a really important one, that, for ensuring that most of your training is easy aerobic. And there's often a thing, go slow to go fast. But if you do that, that's how you develop your aerobic capacity. And you could take up this sport in your 40s and still be recording personal bests in your 50s, as long as you're doing most of your training at that easy conversational pace. And certainly a lot of athletes probably get that wrong, where they do their easy sessions a little bit too hard. Next one, number 8, and this is one I'm not good at, as evidenced by the fact that I wanted to train today, is be patient. The results come long term. They don't come in weeks and months, but they come in years. So if you're taking up the sport and you've, say, got 1 year's experience in endurance sport, your best years are probably at least 3 to 4 years ahead of you. It's that cumulative effect of consistent training over a long period of time, and we're talking years, is when you start to see the benefits and when you'll achieve your potential. It's often interesting, a lot of people that do take up triathlon and endurance sports are not patient, which teaches them patience. So, certainly be patient. If you rush it, try and do too much hard training or too much training, you can't rush this process. You've just got to be patient. Okay, number 9. Okay, and this one is really important too, because as human beings, we have some basic psychological needs, and one of those is to continually master something. So you want to be getting better at triathlon. You want to be getting better at this sport, but to do that, you need to get out of your comfort zone. So you need to challenge yourself on a regular basis. And that might mean, doing events that you thought were not otherwise possible. And when you're getting through that event, you realize you're getting better. That gives you a sense of motivation, and then you want to keep going. So, but the only way you're going to do that is to actually do events that maybe frighten you a little bit, get you out of your comfort zone.
Doing some of the shorter, high heart rate events that, if you prefer to do the long course stuff. Yeah.
Or if you're the short course athlete, maybe trying a half Ironman. You don't have to change your training too much, but maybe trying something a little bit different, or doing a marathon, or trying to run a PB for a 5K. So doing something that gets you out of your comfort zone on a regular basis, because when that happens, you get the mastery, and when you feel as though you're getting better at something, it gives you motivation. And then the final one, I think this is really, really important, is keeping things in perspective. We're lucky to be able to do this sport for fun, to have our health, to be able to do endurance sports, swim, bike, run for fun. So I think it's important to keep things in perspective and not get too disappointed or let it become a stress. It certainly can become a stress if you miss sessions or training's not going so well, or if you have a race and it doesn't go as well as you'd hoped. I think it's really important to keep things in perspective and that it is just fun. And when you keep things in perspective, you start to realize it's just for fun, and it's great to be healthy, and it is a type of sport that you can do forever.
Yeah, and I think something that I'd like to say is that we've seen it all with the athletes over the years. People who have burnt out after one season because they've done stuff too early.
Yep.
People who have become quite successful at becoming long-term triathletes. People who have joined the squad and made friends, and that's kept them going, and other people who have yo-yoed about. So, all those tips come from pretty much coaching life experiences.
They're made up of what we've seen people, the traits and the attributes of people that have shown success and achieved their potential have pretty much encompassed all of those different points. And that's all we want for people, is that, you take up triathlon, it's something that you enjoy, and hopefully you're doing it in 5, 10, 15 years and it just becomes part of your life.
That's right.
Look, thank you. That was the one for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you do enjoy these platforms or these lives and you're watching on YouTube, it'd be great if you could subscribe, or if you're watching on Facebook, leave a review or a comment or any future suggestions. And if you're watching the women's race tomorrow at the triathlon, go the Aussies. Should be a good race tomorrow as well, and then the mixed relay later in the week if you are a triathlon fan. But
so next week we're going to be talking about how to get into triathlon for those new people. So if you have any friends or family that you think would like to give it a go, we're going to be talking about how you can get started and get into it.
Because we were all beginners once.
That we were.
Yeah, so tune in next week, or if you got anyone if you got anyone, we do you want to say hello, Finn?
Okay.
We thought he was in bed, but clearly he's not. Anyway, we'll leave that with you, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.